Hello everyone, I'm so excited that you're here. I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. Quick question. Of the last 10 people you sat down with, how many said, hey, send me a quote, or hey, let me think about it, or let me check with my cousin, and then they ghosted you? I'm gonna bet it was probably 6, maybe 7, maybe all 10 if you're newer in the life insurance business. So I've been a life insurance agent for 6 years. I've spent over $61,000 in ads. I've generated more than 13,000 leads for my own agency. And I'm gonna tell you something that took me a long time to figure out. Those prospects were not stalling. They weren't broke. They were not lying to you. They were standing at a baggage claim waiting for a bag that you forgot to bring off the belt. So you know sometimes when you're flying and maybe you check in a bag and you have to wait for it to come around like in the belt. That's what I mean. And I know that sounds weird. Stay with me for a second. There's a book called The Brain Audit by Sean DeSouza, and it came out like in 2009. It's one of the cleanest explanations I have ever read on why people buy and why they don't. And the core idea of the entire book is this. The customer hesitates from buying, not because they don't want to buy. Their hesitation comes from the fact that you, the insurance agent, haven't got the bags off the conveyor belt. That's a direct quote from the book, the bags off the conveyor belt. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through all 7 bags in order applied to life insurance so that by the end of this video, you can pull up your last 10 dead deals and figure out exactly which bag you forgot. So 7 bags, just 7. By the way, if you're already running a clean process and you're closing more than half of your one-on-ones, maybe you can skip this video. That's not your selling, is not your problem. But if you're getting a bunch of, hey, let me think about it, more than you're getting, where do I sign? Then this is for you. Okay, so the metaphor that I think runs this whole book is the airport. And Sean DeSouza, he says, imagine you land at an airport and you had loaded 7 red bags onto the plane. You walk up to the conveyor belt and you start collecting them. 1, 2, 3, 4. You get 6 bags, and then he asks this question: when do you leave the airport? And the answer is obvious. You don't. You wait for the 7th bag. No matter how late you are, no matter how tired you feel, no matter how good those 6 bags look sitting on the cart in front of you, you do not leave the airport without all 7. And he says that's exactly what is happening inside of your prospect's brain when you finish the presentation. They have 6 bags off the belt, and they're still standing there waiting for the 7th. They don't say, I'm waiting for bag number 5. They say, let me think about it. They say, send me a quote. They say, let me check with my cousin. And it's the same behavior. It's just different words. They fidget, they fidget, they fidget, then they go. And so with that being said, the order of the bags matters, and I want you to let me walk you through them. So bag number 1 is the problem. The first thing that has to come off the belt is the problem, not your solutions, not your credentials, not where you went to school, the problem. And DeSouza has, I think, this great line in the book. He says, pain and problems are a natural magnet for the brain because the brain is wired to scan for problems because the brain is trying to keep you alive. Your brain is trying to keep you alive. And so he uses this example in the book called Chuck Brown. And Chuck, he has a computer that's been acting a little weird, but he's been ignoring it. And one day, Chuck is just walking down the street and he sees this big sign that says, is your computer acting weird? It might be the first signs of an imminent hard disk crash. Something like that. And Chuck stops, and the sign didn't lead with a solution. It didn't say, buy your computer repair service for $99. It led with a problem. And the problem was so specific to Chuck's actual experience that his brain locked on. So for simplicity purposes, your Facebook ad opener, your voicemail, your DM, your first 10 seconds on your discovery call, for example, that's your big sign. And most agents are putting up signs that say, we help families protect their loved ones. That's a solution, not a problem. Nobody stops for that. Like, for example, try selling to a brain that's not paying attention. You can't. So how do you get them to pay attention? With the problem. So real quick before we get to bag number 2, I'll tell you that bag 2 is the one that most agents lead with, and it's the bag that kills the most deals on its own. So we'll get to it. Bag number 2 is the solution. The solution has to come off the belt after the problem. And remember that when I say the belt, I'm referring to the airport belt. So once again, the solution has to come off the belt after the problem, not before. So the solution by itself doesn't close anything. And Sean has this line that I love. He says, a solution is the fishing line. The problem is the hook and the bait. And you and I know very well that if we throw a fishing line into the ocean, but it doesn't have a hook, if it doesn't have bait, you're not going to catch a fish. And the way I think about that for our world is the solution is what the prospect buys. The problem, bag number 1, is what makes them want to buy. So when you walk into a meeting and you open with, I want to talk to you about an index universal life policy with living benefits, or a whole life policy, or a term policy, that's a fishing line cast into the water with nothing on it, with no hook, with no bait, so nobody bites. And the way you handle bag 2 is after the prospect has confirmed the problem out loud in their own words, you describe the solution in plain English. Okay, plain English. None of the technobabble, technical terms, like no carrier names yet, no writers yet. Just here's what fixes what you just told me. And the way I like to do this is and going back to the investment seminar story, and I think I've said this in a video already. I was in a room with about 40 people in Coral Gables. A business attorney invited me, and the head of investments for a major bank stood up and presented. And she was credentialed. She was very sharp. She led with equities, bonds, price to earnings ratio, tariffs, and she was throwing fishing lines into the room with no hook and with no bait. She was talking about solutions without talking about the problem first. And even worse, she was talking about solutions with technical terms, with all the technobabble that the average person doesn't understand. And that's what we do as an insurance agent sometimes when we talk about carriers and riders and living benefits and all of these different things without speaking about the problem first. And I think out of 40 people in that room that I went to, 2 were engaged and asking questions. The other 38 were standing at baggage claim, right? Once again, the other 38 were standing at baggage claim waiting for their bags, right, in the airport. And out of 40 people, 2 were engaged. The other 38 were standing at baggage claim waiting for one of the bags, right? The order was wrong. Bag 2 came out before bag 1. So I'm going to ask you, on your last 10 meetings, did you lead with the solution? And I want you to be honest. If you did, then that's already 2 bags out of order in the first 5 minutes of your meeting. Bag number 3 is the target audience, and this is the one where the prospect's brain kind of decides whether you're for them or not. And De Souza calls this the law of sacrifice. He quotes Peter Drucker, who said, when you find a company that's successful, it is because of a monomaniac on a mission. He quotes Confucius, who said, man who chases 2 rabbits gets none. And I'm sure you've heard this quote before, or some version of this quote. And he uses this example from 330 BC. And Alexander the Great is fighting Darius. And Alexander, outnumbered by a lot of men, middle of the battle, he gives one order: kill Darius. That's it. So 1 target. And he wins the battle because his entire army is focused on one specific outcome. And the application for us, insurance agents, is when you sound like you sell to everybody, the prospect's brain decides that you don't sell to them. They have to recognize themselves in the way you describe who you work with, right? Not families. For example, in my scenario, it's not families, it's not business owners, it's working mothers of children with special needs who are scared that their kid won't be taken care of when they're gone. That's a target audience. That's a bag that the brain can grab off the belt and say, yeah, that's me. Keep going. So write down on a yellow pad right now, who is your one specific person? And if you can describe them in a sentence with an age, a job, a city, a fear, the dream. Bag 3 is still on the belt. And I'm going to recap real quick because we're 3 bags in and this is where it gets a little bit dense. Bag 1 is problem, bag 2 is solution, bag 3 is target audience. Now, the next 4 bags are the bags that most agents either skip entirely or do very badly. And the next one, bag 4, is the bag I think kills more like let me think about it deals than any other bag in the 7. So we'll get to it. Bag number 4 is the biggest objection. And the rule that Sean gives in the book is this. You bring out the objection before the prospect does. That's another verbatim line. You've got to bring out the objection before they ever think about it. And then knock down that big domino, that big objection, before they bring it up. And most agents do the exact opposite. They sit there hoping that the objection doesn't come up. They sit there trying to be smooth. They sit there trying to hoping that the prospect doesn't say it. And what happens is the objection sits in the back of the prospect's mind for the entire meeting. And at the end, the prospect says, let me think about it, and walks out the door with the objection still uncovered. And the fact of the matter is the biggest objection in life insurance is almost never the price. And De Souza has a great line on this. He says, in a list of 6 main objections that include quality, service, and so on, price comes 7th in a list of 6, which means that price is almost never the real objection. The real objection in life insurance is usually one of these. It's mostly things like, hey, I'm probably going to get a better rate from my cousin that sells life insurance, or what if I cancel my policy in 2 years, or what if I die and the company doesn't actually pay, or I already have life insurance through work, or hey, what if you're not around 20 years from now? Like all of these objections that they could have, like it's almost never the price. And the great thing is that you know what the real objection is for your specific client. So bring it up yourself. Maybe halfway through your meeting, say, hey, by the way, a lot of the people I work with, a lot of the people I talk to are worried about X. Now let me walk you through how I think about that. And then that bag comes off the belt before they even have to ask for it. And when you do that, you change the whole meeting because you stop being the salesperson trying to kind of like dodge a punch. You become the advisor who already mapped the conversation. Bag number 5 is the case study, and this one is huge. And De Souza tells this story in the book about a reader of his called Lee, who he had known for like 3 years. 3 years, and she still hadn't bought his workshop. And he couldn't figure out why, so he had her get on a call with somebody who had recently attended the workshop, and 20 minutes later, Leanne bought. 3 years of marketing didn't close her, but 20 minutes with someone that looked like her did. And so the rule with case studies is this. Your case study has to look like the prospect. Not like your best client, not like the biggest policy you ever wrote, like your prospect. Maybe they have the same job, maybe they have kids in the same age bracket, maybe they live in the same city, maybe they have the same fear, the same worry. And here's where most agents mess this up. We tell our biggest stories. We tell the big policy that we sold. We tell the business owner with the buy-sell agreement, and the prospect sitting in front of us is a 35-year-old mom of 2 kids who works at a hospital and makes around $70,000 a year. Like, she doesn't see herself in the $10 million case. She sees herself in another 35-year-old mom who works at a hospital. So if we're going to use a case study, match the bag to the prospect. And if you don't have one that matches, try to think back, right? Try to think back to like the interactions that you've had with people that are kind of like the prospect that you're about to meet with. If not, like you can pick up the phone, call one of your clients who looks like your next prospect, ask if you can share their story, and obviously like no names if they want privacy, and use it. And that bag comes off the belt and the prospect leans in. And so bag number 6, a risk reversal. De Souza, he has another line on this that I want to share with you. He says, you are the one making the offer. If you don't take the risk, why should they buy? And this is where most life insurance say, hey, well, I can only do like the 14-day guarantee. And that's true, like at the product level, right? Like the free look period. You can't promise a return, but there is a ton of risk reversal you can put on your service that has nothing to do with the carrier. Like for example, you can guarantee one-page plan delivered in 48 hours. You can guarantee an annual review every year on the same week. You can guarantee that you will personally handle the claim if it ever happens and not leave the family on hold with the carrier 1-800 number. Guarantee on top of everything else, the 14-day plan review window where they can read the policy, ask any question, and then walk away with no obligation, which is the free look period in plain English, right? And you can add your phone number to the free look period. Like none of that crosses any compliance line. And if you do have like specific compliance, make sure that you do follow compliance. Okay, so let me recap one more time so you can hear all 7 coming together. Bag 1 is the problem. Bag 2 is the solution. Bag 3 is the target audience. Bag 4 is the biggest objection. Bag 5 is the case study. Bag 6, the one that we just went through, is the risk reversal. And the last one, bag 7, is the one most agents think comes first, and it actually comes last. As a matter of fact, most agents, they don't even know about this. So bag number 7 is the USP, unique selling proposition, like bag number 7. And it's also the one that Claude Hopkins wrote about. Claude Hopkins, if you don't know who he is, like one of the biggest marketers ever. Schlitz was like the 5th largest beer brand in America. And Hopkins toured the brewery. He saw like the live steam sterilization, saw the 4,000-foot wells, he saw the 1,200 yeast experiments, and asked the brewery owner, why don't you tell people these things? And Schlitz went from 5th to 1st by saying what they already did. And the lesson there is your USP, your unique selling proposition, is usually hiding in plain sight in your actual process. And it is the one thing you do that the other agent in town doesn't do. And you have just never said it out loud, right? Maybe it's that you build a 1-page plan instead of handing the prospect a 60-page illustration, right? You do both. You give them the plan, you give them the illustration, you give them everything, right? Or maybe it's that you do annual reviews and 90% of agents don't. Maybe it's that you specialize in one specific group of people and you can actually speak their language because you have lived in their world. Like whatever it is, bag 7 is the bag that gives the prospect a clean reason to pick you over the cousin that sells life insurance, over the work policy that they already have, over the call center life insurance quote that they got online last night. And without bag 7, the prospect's brain says, okay, all of this sounds fine, but I could probably get this from anybody. With bag 7, they say, I wanna work with this person. Now zoom out with me just for a second. The reason this framework matters is because most agents are not bad agents. The fact of the matter is most agents are losing deals that they think they won because they walk out of meetings going, hey, that went great, I just need to follow up next week. And then the prospect ghosts. And the agent blames the prospect. The agent blames the leads. The agent blames the market. But the fact of the matter is the prospect was standing at baggage claim. The agent was already in the Uber. 7 bags came into the plane. 3 or 4 came off the conveyor belt. And so the prospect's brain still has bags going around the belt forever. And De Souza has this line in the margins of the book that I want to share with you. He says, take those bags off the conveyor belt, and if you don't, they will go around the customer's head forever and reduce the chances of them ever buying your life insurance product forever. That's the cost. So I hope you got value from this video. If you got value out of this, hit subscribe, like this video so that the next video shows up for you. I'm here, I'm rooting for you. Take care, let's get to work.